Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Agerson. I am a teacher at Lutheran High School South, and I'd like to walk through a few of the features, basic features of Google Apps for Education with you in this first video. So, when you go to your Drive, it'll look something like this. You'll see all my folders and files and things, but yours will obviously have any folders you've created, any files you've created there, and you can organize those however you'd like. In this first video, I'd like to talk about some of the basic things that are in every Google app for education, or most of them. And then we'll get into some of the specifics for Docs and for Google Sheets and Google Slides and Google Forms. So, Google Drive is just the big filing cabinet. And in Google Drive are all of your different programs that you can use: Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Maps, there's Google everything. But some of the features are universal with Google, and so rather than talk about them in each of the individual videos, I thought it would be more productive to go through those as a whole here. So let's get to it. This is a Google Doc. It is a word processor. You're probably familiar with those. It's comparable to Microsoft Word. Your menu options in your upper left-hand corner will be pretty uniform. There might be some different in Docs versus Sheets versus Slides. Your buttons down here will change a little bit. If you see my mouse moving here, your buttons will change a little bit based on the program. But for the most part, what I'm about to go through is in all of them. So if you click on File first, some of the more useful menu options under File are Make a Copy, Download. I'm going to talk a little bit about publishing to the web later. And yeah, I think that's about it. Let me move that screen a little bit there. Printing, obviously. Page setup can be helpful when you are trying to fit something in on a page or something. But okay, so you stay there. All right, there we go. So making a copy is what I want to start with. Well, I guess I should start at the top. So making you'll see a new document, new spreadsheet, presentation, form, drawing. You can do all of those things that you can do over here in Google Drive, new. You have all those same options here in Google Docs. If you have one that you want to open, a file that you know that you want to open, you can just click open there. Again, much like Microsoft Word. But this make a copy is very, very helpful when working with students. And it's something you'll want to teach your students how to do if they don't know already. Because a big way that you're going to use Google Docs is to, and a lot of these Google programs, is to make a template and then share it with the kids, but you don't want the kids changing things and editing the master copy. So you're going to want them to make a copy. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So when you share it with the kids, and we'll go to sharing in just a second, you're going to ask them to make a copy. So you would click on that, and right away it comes up with copy document, what you want the name of it to be, and if they have their Google Drive organized, they can put it in the right folder. Okay? So one thing I want to stress is that with any Google program, any Google file, you want the kids to put a good title on it. So many times work has been lost to the untitled document land. So you want to make sure that you have a good title, maybe even require their name goes in the title, just their first name. So have the students make a copy of things. It'll just make your life easier. You can also see you can download it. So if you wanted to download it as a Word document, that would put it onto your machine and you can use it from there. A lot of times I will download them as a PDF, and then that way Anybody who has access to it cannot change that document. So emailing is attachments, all those types of things are available there. Let's see, you can rename it, you can print it. That's all dependent on your print setup. So I won't get into that, but page setup. So I have my margins set a little different than what it normally comes. If you looked at yours, they're probably all 1-inch margins. I've got mine set to 0.5 and 0.5 on the bottom. Just lets me get more on a page. The stuff I'm giving the kids, I want to try to squeeze 8 multiple choice questions in on a page rather than 9 or something like that. So you can change it here for portrait or landscape, however you want to do it. So that's that menu. Over here in this button over here, the blue button in Docs, notice everything in Docs is kind of a blue theme. If you click on Share, so this is where you would give access to your students, your other teachers, whoever. So you would just click on names of, or you would type in names of people you want to share it with, and then you would click Done. Now, when you give them access, I'm going to give myself access to this one. Okay. Right away, it comes up with you making them an editor, or if you pull down that menu, you can make them a viewer or a commenter. If they're editors, they can change this document. Most oftentimes with students, you're not going to want to do this. If they're editors, whatever changes they make will be forever changed on that document. I shouldn't say forever, will be changed on that document. What you're most likely going to want to do with students is to make them viewers. And if they're a viewer, they can't edit the document, but they can click on links, they can read it, they can save it places. And if you want them to edit it, if you want them to fill things in, if you want them to type things on it, they would then make a copy like we talked about earlier. So I'll make myself a viewer, notify people. This will put an email into their email that says you have shared this document with them. If you want to type a message to them, fill out 1 through 10. Well, maybe you tell them make a copy, fill out 1 through 10, share with me when you are finished. And then you'd click send. And then they'll have an email in their inbox. They'll have this in their My Drive under shared with me, and they'll be good to go. Okay. Under here in the settings, editors can change permissions and share. Viewers and commenters can have the option to print. If you don't want them to have that option, you can turn those settings off right there. Commenter, that would mean that they can leave comments on it, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. So let me take a quick timeout and go to Sheets. This is the Google spreadsheet. You'll see many of the same things here: File, New, Open, Make a Copy, Email, Publish to the Web, Print, all those types of things. You'll see the Share button over here. Notice the Sheets is green. So if you're seeing green and you're thinking, oh, I want a Google Doc, you're in the wrong place. Then you have Slides. That one is orange. So here's your Share button. Here is your File. Okay, and then all of your menu buttons are in the same place. Some of them have different options. The one that's a little different, if I can go to my Google form. Okay, so this is a Google form, and to share it, you actually don't share. You do something called add collaborators. So forms, oftentimes you're just going to use and send out to the kids to gather information, gather data, something like that. But if you wanted to, or if 2 teachers wanted to collaborate on a form or something along those lines, 2 students, you would add collaborators. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the Google Forms specific video. So I want to show you perhaps the best feature of Google Docs. of Google Apps for Education. All right. So perhaps the best feature for Google Apps for Education is this little thing right here, version history. This is both a blessing and a curse for students. A blessing in that I deleted everything. So I was going to go here and I wanted to change the font size and I accidentally hit a letter. Oh my gosh, I've lost it all. No. Two things that you can do to fix that. Number one, do the undo. Oh, look, there it is. This, by the way, is the redo button. But if they don't notice it, or if some other change happens that they don't notice, this version history is glorious. All right, so over here, you will see a new menu pop up, this version history. And if you go on these pull-down menus, you can see all the times that it was edited, all the times that it was changed. And when you have multiple people working on a document, it will color code who made that change. Again, blessing and a curse. I didn't do it. Yes, you did. Let's say I want to get that sentence back. So you can see here on this version, the blue is highlighted and it's got a big line that's striked through it. And it's saying that Scott Akerson made this change. And so that's the current version. But what does this version look like? Hey, there's no line. There's no P. And so up here, if I restore this version, that's going to take my Google Doc backwards in time to when that sentence was there. Okay. So let me restore that version. Yes, I'm sure I want to. Google is saving all of your things constantly, so you can always go back. And look, there's my sentence back. Imagine how many times you've lost a paragraph, lost a page, lost a whatever. You can get it back in Google. The other way it's a curse for the students is I was up all night working on it and it didn't save. And you open the document and you say, version is. So you said you were working on it last Friday. Well, last Friday would have been the 19th and you didn't open this document on the 19th. So blessing and a curse for students. But we'll go back to the normal and just use your arrow button here. Let's see. Okay, so a few other features to walk through with you now. Up here is the title. Up here where my mouse is clicking, up here is the title. So if you wanted to change the title, if the students want to change the title, but again, always get a good title in there. Don't let them fall into the undocumented, untitled document land. All right, so then if you want to organize this while you're in there, you start this and it's just, you didn't put it anywhere, like, oh, I want to put it in that LACE workshop file. This little button right here allows you to move it into the right place right now. So you can see that here, let me actually talk you through this. So when I click on this, it automatically comes up with where it's saved now. So I've actually already got it saved where I want to, but it's right here in this thing called LACE Workshop. It's a folder that if I go back, it's a folder in my drive. There you see the LACE Workshop file. And so I want to put it in there and, oh, it's already in there, so I can just X out. But that just allows you to move the document around and organize it while you're in there. Again, you might be doing this over the shoulder of a student or talking them through if you're in an online environment. Something else that is pretty cool that I know would help some students is voice typing. Now this has to be set up and you have to go through a few things to get it. It's just allowing the microphone. But if I click to speak, here's my allow. Okay, Google, let's write a paper on George Washington, period. Enter, enter. In the Revolution, George Washington was a great leader, period. Unclick the voice text, okay. And it'll give you some ideas. And I guess I didn't have to hit enter. It can say new line. But anyway, the voice typing can be very helpful in Google Docs. I believe there are some voice speaker notes and slides. I'm not sure that there's not voice editing or voice typing in Sheets or Forms, but you don't do a lot of typing in those, so that's why there's not. But for students who struggle to type, students who just think better talking, this can be a lifesaver for them. And yeah. Walking through some of these other menus, you can copy and paste, find and replace. So if I want to find every George and replace it with Jorge, I can, let's see, replace, next, replace, done. And so now it says Jorge Washington and Jorge Washington. So that's a nice little tool. Inserts, something I use a ton in Google Docs and slides or tables. Here you can insert tables. Here you can insert images. I'm going to talk about that for a second too here. So now I really don't like all this gobbledygook on here. So I'm going to go back to my restored version. And now I've cleaned it up and gotten rid of all that. So, but let's say that I type the word St. Louis Cardinals. I want to show you what happens when you highlight and right click. And again, this is pretty uniform for most of the Google apps here. You can cut, copy, paste, those types of things. You can type a comment on it. If you wanted to comment, we'll talk about those here in just a second. But I want to look at this Explorer for a second. This is a huge tool when students are doing research. So if you click Explorer over here on the right, will be what St. Louis Cardinals brings up on the web. That's like doing a Google search. But, what St. Louis Cardinals does when you go to images. And a lot of times, this is what the kids are doing. They're looking for images. So what's nice about this is if you click on the little plus button, boom, it's going to insert it right there. If you don't like it, click on it, delete it. I hit backspace. That was the keystroke there. Let's say I really wanted this one, all about their uniforms. So if I just click on it, it'll say, do you want this? It just gives you a preview of it. Well, I don't like the name player on it, so I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to go back to, let's see if I can find one of my favorite Cardinals here. Yeah, maybe I can't, but you know what? I don't want the St. Louis Cardinals. I want Yadier Molina. You can search right from here. This is like having a little Google search engine right there. And so we'll click on this one when Yadi got the ball stuck on him. And now we've got an image in there. So that's an easier way to get to image. Again, that keystroke was typing something here, highlighting it, right click, and click Explore. That feature is in Google Sheets, or excuse me, Google Slides. But again, is not, I don't believe, in Google Sheets. Google Sheets is, it's not really in there. So Google Sheets is more for data entry and numbers, so that's why it's not going to have a lot of the same features. But that's a nice little feature of Google Apps for Education that can help. Let's see. One last thing here. Let's move me over there. There we go. Let's talk about this publishing to the web. So this publishing to the web is if you want to put something on your website, a document they can always access, a file they can always access, a presentation, a Google Slides presentation they can always access, or a spreadsheet that you want them adding to all the time, something like that. A Google form that you want them, church Sunday school attendance, for example, might be a way that you would want it. So if you publish this to the web, You put it on what you would do is, do you want to embed it or do you want to just have a link? Which one you want is more dictated by what you're doing this for and where it's going to go. But most times it'll just be a link. So I'm going to publish it. Are you sure you want to publish it? Yes, I am. So this is opening up the sharing settings. And it'll give you this link. So right here, you see a link. And now what you can do down here is automatically republish when changes are made. Do they have to have an email from your school? A lot of times that's useful if you only want them looking at this document, if it's a syllabus or something. So lots of ways to use this. I use this a lot with Google Slides. Put a presentation. Put a presentation online that I want them to always go back to, that I use a lot in class. And so it was always on my website. So I would just update it, and it automatically updates and sends it out. Okay. So I think, let me check my little notes here. I think that's mostly what I wanted to show you about the forms just in general, or the apps in general. Again, Google Drive will have the way to start your docs, your sheets, your slides. And if you go down here to more, you'll see your forms, your drawings. If you want them to do a drawing, you can insert that as an image. That might be something that we could work in, or if there's interest, I could do a little video about that. My maps. If you do mapping activity, a lot of times social studies are there. If you have not seen Jamboard, I would strongly encourage you to, especially in our potentially online learning environments of the fall or of the foreseeable future. Google Jamboard is awesome. It's a whiteboard that you can share just like docs and sheets. And as you're updating it, the kids are seeing it. So if you're giving notes, if you're showing how to do math problems, if you're underlining things, they can edit it too and underline things in sentences, whatever. So Google Jamboard is pretty cool. But that's for another day. All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and stop this video and start a more dedicated one to each of the four.